All right, in this explainer, we're going to dig into a really fascinating theory that honestly helps make sense of the world right now. It's called the theory of accumulative social erosion. So, let me just start by asking you something. Does it ever feel like things are kind of fraying at the edges? You know, like the ground we're all standing on isn't quite as solid as it used to be? If you've had that feeling, you are definitely not alone.
Well, believe it or not, there's a word for this feeling: permacrisis. It's this idea that we're in a constant state of overlapping shocks. You've got economic crises, health emergencies, political chaos, all hitting us at the same time, and it's putting this huge strain on our communities. What we're really talking about when we say things feel fragile is the wearing away of our social fabric. Now, what's that? Well, think of it as the invisible glue that holds us all together. Trust, shared values, the relationships we have, and the theory we're looking at today says that this fabric is slowly but surely tearing.
Okay, so let's get into the heart of it. There's a framework that helps explain exactly how this is all happening, and it's called the theory of accumulative social erosion, or TACE for short. Now, the most important thing to get about TACE is that it's not some big, sudden collapse. It's a slow burn. It's a gradual process. The best way to think about it is like rust. It starts with these deep structural problems like inequality, and then just slowly eats away at all the trust and the connections that bind us together. And the theory says there are 4 key forces driving this, and they all feed into each other in this vicious cycle. It all kicks off with structural inequality. That causes our institutions and communities to get weaker. That, in turn, leads to this feeling of personal burnout. The theory has a great name for it: exhausted subjectivity. Basically, we're all just too tired to even engage anymore. And then, pouring gasoline on the whole fire, you have digital polarization.
So if those are the ingredients, how does the erosion actually happen? Well, it's not random. The theory lays out this really clear, cascading process. It moves through 3 distinct levels of our society. Think of it like a waterfall, right? It starts way up high at the big picture, macro level. Then that water trickles down to the meso level, which is all about our institutions and local communities. And finally, it all lands right in our laps at the micro level. That's the personal stuff, how we feel and act every single day.
Okay, so let's start at the top. Level 1, the macro level. These are the huge, foundational cracks in our society. We're talking about massive economic inequality, widespread job insecurity, what researchers call precarization, which is that constant feeling that your job might not be there tomorrow. And when people feel like the system is rigged and the safety nets are gone, what happens? They stop trusting the big national institutions.
And of course, those cracks don't just stay the top. They spread down to level 2, the meso level. This is where you see stuff like the bowling alone effect. People just aren't joining clubs or community groups anymore. Trust in everything from the government to the news just tanks. Our communities start to feel less like communities and more like just a bunch of people living near each other.
And all of this brings us down to level 3, the micro level. And this is where it really hits home for all of us. This is that feeling of burnout, of just being emotionally exhausted all the time. It's the anxiety, the loneliness, the feeling of not even trusting your neighbors. The key takeaway here is that these aren't just your personal problems. They're symptoms of this much larger erosion happening all around us.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds plausible, but is it real? And the answer is a big yes. What's so cool about this theory is that it's measurable. Researchers can actually track this stuff with real data. For macro-level inequality, they can use something called the Gini coefficient. At the meso level, it's pretty straightforward. They use surveys to track our trust in institutions. And at the micro level, they can measure things like loneliness with proven tools like the UCLA loneliness scale. But there is one more massive piece to this whole puzzle. A factor that has taken this slow process of erosion and just hit the accelerator. And you probably already guessed it, it's our digital world. I mean, just look at the difference here. Before the internet, information moved slower. We mostly got it from a few shared places, which helped create these broad, common stories. But today, it's a fire hose of instant, fragmented information, served up to us by algorithms that are designed to keep us angry and engaged inside our own little online tribes.
And this online environment is the perfect breeding ground for something called affective polarization. This is a hugely important idea. It's the shift from simply disagreeing with someone's politics to actively disliking and distrusting them as a person. The other side isn't just wrong anymore. They're seen as bad, immoral, maybe even dangerous.
So, you put it all together. The inequality,
The crumbling institutions, the personal burnout, the digital division. Where does that leave us? What are the real-world consequences of all this? Well, the bottom line is the stakes couldn't be higher. This kind of unchecked social erosion leads to what experts call democratic backsliding, where people just lose faith in the whole system. It helps fuel a massive mental health crisis and makes people check out of civic life completely, and, in the worst cases, it can even increase the risk of radicalization and real-world violence.
And I think the researchers behind this theory put it perfectly with this quote. Social erosion isn't some random thing that just happens. It's a predictable outcome. It's what you get when your systems, your economy, your communities, your politics get completely out of balance.
And that really leads us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. If we can predict how societies erode, does that mean we can be intentional about rebuilding them? If we understand exactly how the social fabric tears apart, can we, with purpose, start to weave it back together? That's the challenge this theory leaves us with.